What do you think about patriotism? Do Americans have to love our country? And just what is our patriotic duty? In this episode and the next, let's consider advice about patriotism from Presidents Reagan and Obama. And then let's figure out whether the framers of the Constitution would agree. First up, President Obama.
That loving this country requires more than singing its praises or avoiding uncomfortable truths. It requires the occasional disruption, the willingness to speak out for what is right, to shake up the status quo. That's America.
Notice that Obama states that disruption is not optional. It's required. It's part of loving this country. And by disruption, he means protest against our government. That speech, after all, was delivered on the 50th anniversary of America's Bloody Sunday at the Edmund Pettus Bridge. So did the framers think we have some patriotic duty to protest? Well, actually, yes. Thomas Jefferson did warn that if the people remain quiet when they perceive oppression, that would be the forerunner of death to the public liberty. And James Madison taught us that our eyes must be ever ready to mark, our voice to pronounce, and our arm to repel all threats to our freedom. But hold on. If the framers invented a free government that they hoped would be a shining example to the entire world, why then would Americans ever need to protest? The framers would answer that no government, however well conceived, can guarantee each person's liberty. After all, history has proven that everyone invested with power is apt to abuse it as far as it will go. Hence, James Madison warned that our government's design is neither the sole nor the chief palladium of constitutional liberty. The people must be its guardians. If then you and I do have a duty to protest abuses of authority, what exactly must we do? How far should we go? Would it be okay to break the law or resort to violence? 18th century Americans wrestled with these questions. For example, Franklin, Washington, Madison, they all criticized the Boston Tea Party. The destruction of private property troubled them. But ringleader John Adams countered that the Bostonians had no choice. They had to toss the tea or submit to tyranny. Adams went on to present a general theory for protests. They must begin peacefully, but may become, if strictly necessary, incrementally more intense until oppressed people gain relief. If protesters had to break the law, well, that's justified where a right exists, but the way to legal justice is not open when, according to Adams, the law forbids a man to pursue his right any other way. Under this doctrine of necessity, violent protest can be justified, so long as every peaceful alternative has been tried and failed, which was plausibly the case in Boston under King George. In a free government like ours, however, that means violent protest is never justified. As inaugural Supreme Court Justice James Wilson explained, the people in the United States always retain a peaceful alternative, a power under our Constitution to change any law, a power to change even the entire government. When abuses of government authority inevitably occur, the framers would encourage the oppressed to engage in persistent, ever more conspicuous, yet still nonviolent protest until public opinion is swayed. Because as Samuel Adams pointed out, this is the only remedy consistent with Republican principle, the only remedy that avoids a state of despotism and warfare. But the framers would also have advice for the unaffected majority. They would point out that people, unless misled, don't protest out of malice. They protest for justice. So they would encourage everyone to sympathize with neighbors who protest, because they're likely truly aggrieved, and to ensure that their path to legal justice is open. The framers might even quote the ancient Greek statesman Solon, who said, "We can have justice whenever those who have not been injured by injustice are as outraged by it as those who have been." Or as William Samuel Johnson contended, the only effectual way to prevent riots is to govern with wisdom, justice, and moderation. So yes, according to the framers of the Constitution and President Obama, you and I have a patriotic duty to protest, not only when we suffer injustice, but also when we see injustice. We'll consider a different aspect of patriotism from President Reagan's farewell address next time on the Framers Toolkit.